Okay. Well, good evening and welcome to the Fine Arts and series. So Fine Arts and is a series of conversations with professionals who are in fields at the intersection of fine arts and other industries. Many of our fine arts students here at TCU are double majors. So this series is designed to educate our fine arts students on the many varied opportunities available to them at these intersections. So today we will be discussing fine arts and health, and I am elated to be joined by Abbie Maynard, who is the Seacrest Studios Media Programs Manager at Children's Health, and Sarah Newton, who is an instructor in classical and contemporary dance here at TCU. Sarah also serves as the coordinator for the Children's Internship. So Abbie and Sarah, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me today. We'll go ahead and jump right in. To start, if I could have each of you briefly introduce yourselves and just discuss a little bit about what you're currently doing in the field of fine arts and health and how you're navigating that space.
I guess I'll go for
it. Go for it. Yeah.
So my name is Sarah Newton, and as Melanie said, I teach here. That's how most of my day is spent, is at TCU dancing. Right now, things are quite a bit different than they've been in other semesters across the board and at probably everybody's life right now because of the pandemic. Right now, I am not doing anything at Cook Children's because of the pandemic. They're not allowing any volunteers on site, and they're having to spend the majority of their time managing the pandemic situation and getting out information in those kinds of ways. So unfortunately, we've had to put a pause on the internship. I'm still reaching out to my colleagues and friends and trying to offer support to the healthcare community there in ways that I can from a distance. But right now that is on a pause.
So thank you. Yeah, that is definitely something that we've been contending with for the last year and some change, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely something we'll be touching on a little bit later, but thank you so much, Sarah. And how about you, Abbie?
Yeah, so my name's Abbie Maynard. I went to TCU. I graduated in 2016. I majored in broadcast journalism and Spanish, but was in the jazz choir all throughout my time at TCU. And so even did some just one-off productions with just, some of the different areas of fine arts. But I currently work as the manager of Seacrest Studios, which is a TV station in the Children's Hospital in Dallas. And so we run a full internal TV station filled with games, singing, dancing, whatever a patient desires and creates in their mind, we make a reality. So our goal is to distract what kids are going through through therapeutic TV programming and also just provide a joyful outlet for kids to feel celebrated and loved. So I work with pediatric hospital patients every day.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I would love for you, I bet. I would love for each of you to just discuss a little bit about how you came to be in the field of fine arts and health and what you love about it. Why have you stayed?
Sure, I can go first this time.
Great.
So, I mean, I grew up doing musical theater my whole life, danced my whole life. I mean, that has always been a part of me. I mean, fine arts is who I am, is how God made me. And so, I think it's been really cool to see that. I thought, go to Broadway, that's my choice. And so, when I started looking at colleges, I was thinking maybe I'll do musical theater, maybe I'll do this, but then stumbled upon journalism and always had a passion for broadcast and for communicating with people, because theater, you're communicating, dance, you're communicating. And so I think journalism sparked my interest because I wanted to learn how to effectively communicate with people and share people's stories. And so that's kind of how I got into journalism, and then worked in news for a few years after college, learned a lot, but also learned that it wasn't for me. And I just knew that I was meant for something different. So, came into the field, I guess, childhood, just, embracing fine arts from a young age, but I was excited about this topic because I do think sometimes as a kid, especially going into college, you think there's only a few ways to continue on and share your gifts with others, but there's so many ways. And so I interned at Seacrest Studios in college and did a singing show with my time there. And so I got to like use singing and then still use journalism through like the news TV world, kind of all in one. And so we have an internship program at Children's Health, of course, similar to Sarah's experience. I do not have any interns right now, but down the road, if you're watching this, we typically have had journalism students, but a big passion of mine is to include fine arts students, because what we're doing is fine arts. I mean, it is an art. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying that's how I got into it. What I love about what I do is that I truly feel like it has embraced all the different qualities that I've been given, and I get to make a difference. Like I literally get to wake up and like make life better for children. That's my goal and that's my mission. Of course, working in a hospital has really hard parts. It's unfair what kids go through, and it just is horrible. But they're also resilient and teach me every single day. And so, as much as I get to help them, they help me way more. So that's why I've stayed in it. I plan to never leave. And that's kind of my whole journey in a nutshell. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Such a beautiful intersection. And I think it's really interesting how we have so many people such as yourselves who are in these fields. They start out as their fine arts majors, and oftentimes we'll have this idea of performance, right? This is we're going into it with this performance mind, and that's where they're going with it. And that's great if performance is what you want to do, but there's so many other things. And I think even for our students, oftentimes, I actually just had a conversation with a student whose parent was telling them, okay, you can do theater, but guess what? You have to have a second major. You have to have something else to fall back on. And I don't necessarily agree with the fall back on, but I do understand and recognize sort of that fear that parents can come in with, and even other students themselves. So because so many of our students have those two majors or have a second major, I think it's really important for them to understand that there's so many things that they can do with fine arts, and that fine arts prepares them for so much. So I really appreciate you, Abbie, letting us know that you have you developed all of these skills from your fine arts major that went into also journalism and health, and they're all crisscrossing and have culminated into a career that, as you said, you want to stay in forever. That's amazing. Thank you, Sarah. How about yourself?
Yes. So Abbie, thanks for going first. You could just really feel the passion for what you do and the excitement in it. I have a similar story. I also did a lot of musical theater as a kid and grew up dancing. And I was fortunate enough to be part of an international youth performing troupe that also did a lot of outreach program. And we had a program for students with autism to come in and do theater. And we practiced doing all kinds of like theater games and activities and creative movement. So as a high school student, I already had experiences working with a variety of different populations, and starting to build interest in like how the fine arts can help build community and build bridges again between all kinds of groups of people. And then I went on to college and got my BFA in dance, and then went on to get my MFA in dance. And then while I was out dancing professionally, I was able to dance with companies that had a lot of community outreach and worked with all different kinds of groups, adults, very young children, people of all differing abilities and interests and purposes and passions for what was bringing them to dance. So it gave me a lot of experience about how to make dance accessible for everyone, and really acknowledging that dance is for everyone. So those are some of the things that kind of started to establish my interest and my skill base in it. And then in 2016, TCU got a call from Cook Children saying, hey, is anybody interested in coming over here and doing something at Cook? And I said, I am. And so I showed up. So I think that's a big part of it is being willing to put yourself out there and say, I'm interested. I'd like to give it a try and see what's possible. I also have a lot of family that's involved in the medical community. And so I think too, hearing things from that side and seeing like, wow, there's a lot of similarities. We both have a lot of interest in how the body works. We both have an interest in taking care of people. And so how can we bring those things together? And so I think that's what's kind of sparked my interest and opened up the doors to do the kind of work that I get to do.
And Sarah, you mentioned something about sort of just being open to and taking the chance to accept an opportunity that sort of landed in your lap, right? Is there somebody available and you volunteered? And oftentimes that's how this happens. I talk with my students often about this idea of planned happenstance. It's a career theory, right? And this idea of there are constantly opportunities happening every single day, but we have to be open to seeing them and accepting those opportunities as they come through. And so I really appreciate you saying, yeah, this wasn't even necessarily something that I, went out for, but the opportunity arose and I took it. And now I'm in this field. And that's usually the way things work, right? It's not this, linear line that we all think of. It's very, crisscrossy and we kind of just go with the flow, right? Or we hope to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
yes.
Sorry, and I just wanted to say too, with the cook thing, what was so interesting is they came with really open arms and said, we're interested in a collaboration. What do you think about that, and what's of interest to you? So I also think that that's something, if you're a student who's interested in taking your fine arts into the medical community, that there is a lot of interest. And so maybe even if something has not yet been established or created, that if you're dreaming of something in your mind that you think that you have to share with this community or would like to start building, I think the time is ripe to reach out and start planting those seeds.
Awesome. And that really leads into our next question, which is, what should students be doing right now? I heard that, be proactive, go out there. And if there's something that you're interested in learning about or gathering more experience in, be the person to knock on the doors and to make the phone calls. What other things would you say students should be doing right now to prepare themselves for a career at the intersection of fine arts and health after TCU?
Well, I think a lot about the fine art content area is really important and helpful so that you know how to establish that programming and what kinds of things that you have at your disposal to bring forward. But also, I would think if you're interested in working with people, learning about people is really helpful. So there's a great education program at TCU. So maybe taking an elective in child development and seeing how children progress, thinking about trying to learn how they're cognitive, how does their brain develop, how does their body develop, how are they developing emotionally, will help you to learn those skills with working with them. Getting lots of opportunities to interact with a variety of populations. Where can you volunteer to work with children and adults and teenagers, and seeing what kinds of work is of interest to you and start building those skills in those kinds of ways. I also think maybe some, if you have the opportunity to take classes in something like anatomy or biomechanics or movement science to kind of understand how the body works even more and to hear some of that lingo that you're going to pick up. Not that you would necessarily be implementing that, but to hear those kinds of things will help you to understand what you're navigating.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. You covered it so well in that. It's funny that you say that like learning about people is advice that you have, because truly, I mean, that is at the core of what we do is understanding people. And so I would just challenge you to get to know people that are different than you, get to know people of all walks of life. Something so cool about working in a hospital is that it is every type of person. Like cancer does not discriminate. It can have happened to any family, no matter what. And so I think something that has been really sweet in that is just finding new ways to connect with people. One of the best questions I love to ask is, tell me about what you love. And so kids just go off on that. I think as adults, we like to just ask them, how old are you? Or like these little pinpointed questions, but they have so much to tell us about that they love. And so I think the same goes for people, and adults like to be asked that too. So that is something I would recommend. In addition to like medical courses, I would just also recommend a language if you can fit it into your schedule. I will tell you, working in healthcare, I mean, I majored in Spanish at TCU, and that's one of the best decisions I made. While yes, an educational degree can only get you so far, like actually getting out and speaking with people is where you'll really get to hone in on those skills. But it has helped me communicate with more people exponentially. I mean, about 40% of our patient families are Spanish speaking at Children's Health in Dallas. And so that's a huge amount of families who I'm really working on. A quick story of that is like, I'm really working on our programming reaching the Spanish speaking population, and had one of those moments of sometimes we see that opportunity and we think, let me do what I think they need. And I was trying to play bingo. We play bingo every Monday and Friday, and I was trying to play bingo and just do it in Spanish. And then one day, one of the families was like, hey, you know that like in Mexico, we don't play bingo. We play loteria, and it's a totally different type of game. And so it was kind of one of those moments of realization, like, hey, just because I think they need something, that might actually not be what their culture embraces. And so it was a good moment of like, hey, if I want to connect with other people, asking them and learning. So that's I would say just what you can be doing now is learning as much as you can about other people and this medical field. Like Sarah said, you're not going to be, of course, implementing those words, but I took Spanish for the health professions in college, and it is so helpful to know some of those words, just so I can help better care for my patients and what they're going through. And then another thing too is, this is very, very, very tangible, but like you can email me and I can broadcast anything that you do. I mean, I've been working directly with the journalism school because, man, it's been a bummer. And I'm so sorry that you guys can't do internships like normal, because that's hard. And I can't imagine just the sadness of that. So I've been trying to find ways to still just empower you guys in the work you're doing. So like to Sarah too, like if there's dances you want me to show, I can show that to the kids. It's really cool because our TV station broadcasts to every single patient room. So that's over 400 beds. And that's kids who get to have it, have material that literally the goal is just to bring them joy. So, and make them smile and feel loved. So anyway, we've been working with journalism students at TCU currently who are just putting together fun, just news packages, about the Fort Worth area for me to air, just to give them that feeling of connection to the patients since they can't come in person. So that's always an option. And so that kind of goes to the point Sarah said of just like asking and reaching out to people. And I know that our studio is set up a little bit different than Cook Children's, but both, I would say, would be interested in still working with you guys, even though this time looks different. I know there's a question about that down the road here, but we're ready to be flexible and innovative. So that's something you could do right now, is share your art with our patients, and I'm happy to do that. So
I love that. And I just love that we're even within the context of this conversation, right? We're meeting new people, we're meeting each other and making these connections. And that's really kind of what it's all about, is making connections. And so I'll just add a little bit for my piece, is that it's really important to start cultivating relationships, as you all have mentioned, right? Start cultivating relationships with people. And one of the best ways to do this is to just be proactive and reach out. I often encourage students to utilize platforms like LinkedIn. The TCU public school page on LinkedIn allows students to research and search for alumni who are in fields of interest to them and reach out to ask them questions, to conduct an informational interview. In the same vein, they can go on to hornedfrogsconnect.com, which is a newer platform open to alumni and I believe juniors and seniors. And that platform is even better because it allows our alumni to opt in to having those types of conversations. So it's less of a cold call and more of a, hey, this person has said I'd love to welcome having a conversation with you regarding your career, maybe answering some questions, or maybe I even have an opportunity available and I'd love to talk with you about it. So just being open, as you all have mentioned, to having those conversations and cultivating that. I think a lot of that sometimes takes a little bit of courage to do, right? But this is the skill that students should be honing right now. And so moving into identifying particular skills that you think students really should think about practicing while they're here, what would you say are maybe your top 2 or 3 skills that you really think students should, yeah, this is what you want to focus on while you're here as you're looking into a career within fine arts and health?
I mean, I can go, I mean, I guess, I don't know, something that the first thing that came to mind was just, it's like a choice, like choosing gratitude. I don't even, that's kind of nothing to do with like this specifically, but I think something that I just like learned is like, man, TCU, there's so much to be grateful for at TCU. It's an incredible school. And so choosing to be grateful in what we have, like what you have now, and then honing in on that skill, because I don't know for you guys, but for me, just like a place of gratitude helps me be just a better worker, a better mission driven person. And so that would be something I would say, just like the freedom of like self-forgetfulness, like just not doing things with selfish intent, but just doing things because you genuinely like want to make a difference and care for people, and like not taking things personal. Like that's so hard for me. I'm very sensitive, and just think like as a worker, especially in arts and health, you know that it can be, I mean, you should be open to feedback. And so I think that's something I've really grown in and started honing in on. Journalism was pretty like tough with feedback, and learning how to accept that and not make it about you of like, oh, it's because I'm this and that. No, it's simply just to help you grow. And so viewing it as an opportunity to learn and not a moment to be distraught by feedback someone else gave or a no that you received. I mean, I received 2 no's from Seacrest Studios around the nation before I got this job in Dallas. So like the no's are going to happen. And even when you're like, this is what I was meant to do. So those were just some quick skills that I thought of, a little bit more emotional driven, but
yeah. And I think that's really, really important for students, especially in fine arts, to be able to roll with the punches and accept the things that don't happen for them, because that's sort of the name of the game. You got to get used to those types of things happening. And I really appreciated your thought process on really honing in and staying grateful for the things that you have. It's this idea of this mind-body connection, right? Which is relevant to all of us, no matter what field we're in, right? This mind-body connection having to do not only with our physical health, but our mental health, right? Remaining grateful, oftentimes, especially in times that we're in right now, are going to help you to get through those hard times, those rejections, those denials, as you're on your path, your winding path, right, to where you will ultimately go, whether you stay there or not. So I really appreciate your more emotionally centered because I think they're all valuable and they're all very, very important. Thank you, Abbie. Sarah, how about yourself?
I think learning to look for the yes, or learning to look for what is possible. So on a most basic level, like when I'm working with patients or siblings of patients that cook children, that's the first thing I try to assess. Like, what movement is possible in the space, in the body, in the time that we have. So learning to make sure that your lens is always honed towards the yes, we can do this, yes. And then also thinking about that maybe big picture of like, if you want to have this programming, instead of thinking about all the reasons why it can't happen, what are the things that you can make happen to lead towards that programming? So that can be things like looking at your skills. What skills do you have that you can say yes to? Yes, I know how to dance. I know how to teach a dance class. I know how to teach Pilates. I love people and want to help serve them. So what's a population who needs some of these skills that I have? Oh, I can say yes by reaching out to Cook and asking if I can provide creative movement experiences for their patient population. Oh, I can reach out and say that I can offer Pilates classes to parents of patients. Oh, yes, I can offer these experiences to healthcare providers. So, trying to focus on what is possible or the yes things that you have going on for you, to be able to create things rather than focusing on the no or the impossible. And then also something that I learned really important in my time at Cook is adaptability. Is really learning to go with the flow, because you plan and plan and plan, which is so important, and especially when you're working really in a really structured healthcare environment. And then you go in and things are totally different than what you had planned for. And your plan can never be more important than the people that you're working with. So learning to be adaptable in the moment and recognize like what's most important in this moment.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think adaptability is the name of the game. We have sort of in this last year had a crash course collectively, right? In being able to adapt. You know, we went from life as usual to quarantine. And it has been very difficult for everyone across the board. But I would say it has particularly impacted our fine arts students and people who are in the creative fields in general. What has been your experience in terms of how COVID-19 has impacted your work in the field, and what insights have you gleaned from this thing that we're all dealing with right now?
When you say work in the field, do you mean in particular the intersection of fine arts and
Fine arts and health, and just in the fine arts in general, because as I mentioned, most of our students are double majoring, but some of them will choose health, some of them will choose education or otherwise, right? So even just within the confines of fine arts, how have you seen this field impacted by COVID-19? And even in terms of the job search and hiring process, what things have changed? What sort of things have you noticed that have impacted this process for students, and maybe any advice that you have for students in that vein?
Well, as I spoke to a little bit earlier, I mean, we had to move offsite of Cook as soon as this happened, and it happened just so overnight. I mean, literally, I was emailing with the interns with whom I was working last spring, and it's like, here's the plan for next week. And then we get an email saying, like, everything's shutting down. We get an email from Cook saying that they can't have volunteers on site because, of course, everybody's health and safety has to come first. So right away, in order to regroup, instead of working on site, we started making videos of the creative movement experiences, music experiences, and visual art experiences that would have been done with patients and siblings of patients. And so while it was disappointing not to get to be in the same space with them, we still got to move forward with practicing honing those skills, thinking through the process of teaching those kinds of things, creating different kinds of movement and fine arts experiences. And I think video has provided a lot of opportunities that maybe we weren't aware how many opportunities could be utilized via video. And you're really seeing that in the field of dance. There's some people who've come out with some excellent dance for camera work, which is something that's been growing in the field for quite some time, but really a lot of work has come out this year because that's the way that people are working. And you're seeing a lot of auditions take place via video. So I think getting really familiar with your friend Abbie and her skills would be to your benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love what you said. Just appreciate what you said too, Sarah, just about adaptability, because I mean, that really has been what we've experienced. And I think one of the sweetest things, I mean, specifically, I'm working in healthcare with children, but children are they're so adaptable and they're so resilient. And I think, yeah, as you know, students and adults, and then further on in life, it's really easy to hold your plans really tight and, you know, want want them to happen because they're your plans and you've worked on them. But yeah, I would say it has just been like a pivot, you know, it's like, okay, here's something that isn't going to work the same way as it did before, but here's a whole new world of things that we're going to get to discover and learn on. So yeah, I would say, I mean, personally, it has been really cool to see the studio come to life in a whole new way. I mean, the reason why we were invented in the first place was because isolation is not new to kids in the hospital. So we've had kids forever not being able to leave their room. And so the studio, we interact through, we used video chat capabilities for almost 10 years now. And we used communicating through phone and through the TV. That was the way we communicated with so many kids. As you know, Sarah, I'm sure you've been with kids who are in isolation rooms and not able to leave. And so it's just kind of crazy. Like, I even had a patient today tell me that a silver lining for COVID for him was that he felt like people understood him better because he has cystic fibrosis and always has to wear a mask and is isolated from a lot of things in his life. And so it was such an interesting thing to hear a child tell you, but he was like, I'm not glad it happened, but I do feel like my friends understand me better. And so as an adult too, I'm like, I see that. And I think I understand you better. I'll never fully understand what you go through every day. But anyway, so that is overall, like, I think it has been really cool to see the art of the studio be even more appreciated by people. And so cool to work with TCU. Like, I don't know if it's your students specifically, Sarah, but I've worked with Kim and just other people, and I've received videos that students have made and I've been able to air them. And I mean, we've had people from all over the world. Like, we had a ballerina in London do a ballet class. It's just like, we've been doing virtual visits. And yes, there's some Zoom fatigue in the world for sure, but like, we have been interacting with, I mean, we have a theater company called Only Make Believe, where they do these awesome shows for us live every other week. And you're just like, this stuff didn't happen before, which I would rather the performance would be in person. But yeah, I think we've just not taken anything as a no, like you said, Sarah, and just really taken advantage of, okay, we have this awesome studio where we can virtually connect with people. And we've been doing that for 8 years. Let's keep going and let's do it in a new way and include even more people on this mission. So it's been humbling. It's been, you know, challenging, of course, for our world. But I think it's been just a symbol of resiliency overall. That's why I feel like it's been stamped by, is like resiliency and the yes of, okay, what can we do though? Like, what can we do to use arts? I mean, arts change lives. Like, I literally see the power of music, the power of dance, the power of theater, the power of getting to hear your name on TV. I see it literally heal children every day. So it's not a light thing. I'm like, this is really real. So I'm grateful that in that, Sarah, that you still found ways to make videos and help students like feel that the beauty of making a difference in that way. So, I mean, blessed that COVID-19 has really been a helpful opportunity. Of course, beside the tragedy of it, there's no way to even describe that component, but I think we've been able to find a lot of really cool new opportunities from it.
And I think opportunity, right, is really the operative word here. Is, you know, amidst all of the things that we could say are, you know, pretty negative surrounding this pandemic, there has been a lot of beauty that has emerged from this situation. And I think there are so many positives that if we remain grateful and sort of think about that mind-body connection and think about remaining adaptable, we can actually come out of this on the other side better people, right? As you all have mentioned, you all have started utilizing platforms that maybe, you know, you'd never even thought of before in the realm of fine arts. I mean, I think we're all by now probably Zoom experts, you know, and doing things that maybe we never thought we would do. Just as a little anecdote, my dad is an actor, 73 years old. He is a stage performer, theater actor, but he's also done some movies and television throughout his lifetime. Okay. My dad has always done in-person interviews. And for the very first, excuse me, not interviews, I'm on my side of things, auditions. And for the first time this year, he was having to learn how to use Zoom and actually record his audition tapes and send them in. And, again, 73 years old, this is not something that he was used to doing. So he's got my brother, who's very tech savvy, setting him up with the box lights and the computer and running lines with him as he's filming his audition tapes. And it just goes to show you that, it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, we've all been impacted by it. And yes, there have been a lot of negatives, but there's been a lot of positives as well. And I'm happy to say my dad right now is in New Orleans filming for an Amazon Prime TV show that's going to be coming out later this year. And, he's very fortunate, he's very lucky, but he has been filming audition tapes this entire year, So these are the types of things that, even though it may seem hard right now, it's happening, right? It's happening for my 73-year-old father. And it can happen for our TCU students if they really are open and remain adaptable and remain positive. All of these things are going to be really, really important moving forward. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your thought process behind this, because I think this is something that can really get folks down on this field in particular. So just as a final little talk, I know that for both of you, both at Children's Health as well as Cook Children's, those opportunities in terms of the internships are not currently happening. But would you give us a little bit of insight on what those internships entail when they will come about again?
Sure. So the TCU internship, it is helpful if you are a fine arts major, but not necessarily required. You need to be able to demonstrate a proficiency in either dance, music, or visual art. There in the application process, I believe you have to write a one-page statement of interest. Why are you interested in working at Cook? What are the skills that you bring, and provide a resume with that. And then also have two letters of recommendation or letters of reference, or there's a reference form there. If you become an intern at Cook, it's so fun. We have 3 different advisors. I advise the creative movement section. Jennifer DeSantis advises the music section, and Dr. Mary Nangaw does the visual art section. So a really dynamic team of mentors. And then you get to work with the amazing Carrie Wancha-Howitz, who is in charge of the Child Life program at Cook Children. And I don't know if you've ever been on site at Cook, but if you have any interest in working in a children's wellness environment, it's definitely worth checking out. The whole inside of the hospital is built to look like a castle. Everything from the I know, it's so fun. Everything from the design aspect is geared towards the child, so things are sized more towards children's. If you look on the floor, the tiles are interactive, and their pathways and their games, and there's all kinds of murals and artwork on the wall that's been done by the children. In the Child Life program at Cook, they have they have 2 music therapists on staff. They also have some artists in residence. So the first few weeks of the internship, you get to spend shadowing the people who work in the hospital regularly and seeing what those skill sets are, seeing what their day is like, getting to observe them working with patients and siblings of patients, seeing them interact with the medical community. What is that kind of relationship environment like? And then you're also getting to observe the child life specialist, which is also something that might be of interest, and see how they serve as advocates for the children and what their roles are at the hospital. Then after that time, you come back and you work with your mentor to establish a set of fine arts curriculum in your content area. So that kind of helps you plan and group. At Cook, they work with infants all the way up to 18, typically is kind of the age range. So you're really working with a wide patient range in terms of age. And then you're also working in all different areas of the hospital. So all different kinds of physical circumstances as well. So we create a wide curriculum looking at kind of early childhood, elementary, and middle school and beyond is how we typically group it, coming up with lots of things that can be adapted in a variety of ways. And then after you spend a few weeks building that curriculum, you get to go on site and work with patients and siblings of patients and implement that curriculum. And you keep meeting with Carrie Ann each week to reflect on your experiences. You get to talk to the other interns to see what might have been similar and different and how they responded to things, and keep checking in on how you're doing. And you've got those resources at Cook there that get to talk to you about, like, hey, if you're interested in being a music therapist, here's the kind of training that you need. Here's the kind of skill set. If you want to be an artist in residence, here's the skill set that you need, and here's some real life guidance about those kinds of things. So it's been a really great experience. I can't wait until we get to be back on site and get it going again.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people are really excited for that to happen again, and we're going to just keep our fingers crossed that it's sooner rather than later. Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Abbie, how about yourself?
Yeah, that's so fun, Sarah. It's just cool to learn about what you guys are doing at Cook. So similar in a lot of ways. The studio team works directly with child life and music therapy, predominantly those two departments, but our chaplains as well, really working as a team to identify patients who we can care for. The overall internship is geared towards students, not only in broadcast, though that has stereotypically been the case. So loving this conversation, because want and desire to have fine arts students of any capacity. But the internship is really based around a few main things. The first thing is really diving into the audiovisual world of TV. And so every single intern has the opportunity and is expected to learn the equipment. So you're learning the soundboard, you're learning how to operate cameras. If you don't already know, you're learning how to edit videos together and commercials. You're learning how to create graphics in Adobe. You're learning how to use Adobe Character Animator by creating animated the characters that we use every day in our shows. You're learning how to operate a green screen. And our green screens, the majority of our programming is built in layers on a green screen. And so would be happy to show you guys some videos. If anyone's interested, you can reach out to me. So that's one part of it. Then the other part of it is the on-air component of it, which is every intern is expected to host a game show and then their own show. And you can come up with any show you'd like. It could be a music video countdown. It could be a dance show. It could be, I did a show called Singing on a High Note, where I have a song that we sang. We did lyric analysis, and then we changed lyrics. We highlighted parts we loved. We highlighted parts that made us feel a certain way. So really lyric analysis to empower the patients. But then we did a show recently all about sports. We had someone super passionate about it. And so she taught new sports, a lot of teaching, but also it could be, we would be open to any idea that you have. Gaming, we had a video game show. So anyway, every intern is expected to do their own show and then host our standard game shows, which we play games every day at 10, 12, and 2, morning shows at 10, and live games are at 12 and 2. And so that's just an experience where, hey, we recognize not every person is wanting to be on camera, but we challenge you to do it so that you can hone in on some of those skills that will help you for the rest of your life, being able to present and talk in front of people. But we also want everyone to dive into the behind the scenes and that really important aspect. So those are the more logistical side of things, also helping with celebrity interviews, creating video. Every intern is expected to create one video commercial for whatever area of the hospital they choose. But ultimately, the main expectation is that you're there with a heart of service to love and care for our patients and identify ways to empower them. You see a kid, just like Sarah mentioned, of like, hey, what can we do? A kid walks in, what can we do? This is their playroom. They don't have a lot of control in the hospital, but this is a place where they get to have control and they get to choose. And so helping the interns learn how to navigate situations of kids that might be going through something that they don't understand, or just a very new situation. And so being there to guide them and help you guys learn how to love and care for those kids. And we deliver prizes to every patient room who plays. And so just navigating those conversations. And so there's a lot of mentorship in that aspect too, of learning how to just navigate situations that actually might make you feel a little uncertain or uncomfortable, but ultimately the goal is to be, we're the best job. We just get to be fun, and like we get to bear the news that like, hey, you got a prize and this is awesome and you're awesome. So I don't take that lightly. Like every healthcare professional is so important. I'm so grateful for what they do. But we really do get to just have fun, and it's the ministry of fun. And so, yeah, that's like and they also promote our games. So they go door to door, and that's like, you're almost, sometimes I'm like, I'm a salesperson, but you're learning how to sell what you're working on and promote it so people know about it and participate in it. So, that's the overall thing. So there's three main parts: emotionally, like connecting with patients, empowering them. That's number one, and getting to serve them. And then also learning the more on-camera side of things, hosting shows. And then the third is the technical side of things. So the audio visual, camera operation and board operation and audio operation. So that's a TV station, working in a TV station, valuable hands-on experience that I had a few news internships, and I didn't get very much hands-on experience, which is understandable. But this one here is fully hands-on. It's the safest place to make a mistake. Kids, they love it. They don't care. They might call you out, but it's funny. Like, it's just like, we make mistakes every day. We encourage the kids to try new things and make mistakes. So we expect that of our interns as well, and of myself.
Thank you so much, Abbie. And I love that you mentioned that this is like the best job ever, because I think for most fine arts students, that's the reason they got into fine arts, is because they absolutely love it. They love to dance or sing or act or paint or whatever their modem is. They love to express themselves in a certain way, and to be able to perform or create from a space of love, and then to give that to others in this, I think, is just absolutely beautiful. And what a wonderful opportunity to do what you love. I'm just going to mention my dad again, because I've said this so many times. He used to tell me growing up, if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And that's something that I've sort of kind of cultivated, and I kind of switched it up a little bit. And on my bio, you'll see, do what you love with your life, right? Let your life be this thing that you give love to the world with, right? In whatever fashion that looks like. It could be in a creative field or otherwise. And so I love that fine arts has given so many the opportunity to do something that they love, and to give back to their community, to society, to their families, in so many ways, especially in the time that we're in right now. So thank you so much, you two, Abbie and Sarah, for joining me today. I'm just gonna give a final ask, if there are any final nuggets of wisdom that you would have, or anything that you would want students to know before we adjourn today.
I mean, I would just say that you guys, I don't want this to come across as I'm some expert in it. Like, I know I don't have that many years of experience, but I just want you to feel known and heard, and your experience that you're going through, like, you're not alone. If you're feeling scared or uncertain, or, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but I went into news reporting for a few years, and it was super hard, and I learned so much. But I think I went TCU. It's a beautiful campus of people who are driven and want to change the world. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. But then I got into my first job and was like, am I changing the world? I don't know if I am. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm making matters worse. And, and I think I had to really stop and remember that every job is important. I'm learning and growing, and I am making a difference. It might not be this just huge, massive way. But I think just remembering that you are making a difference in what you're doing. And so, especially in fine arts, there's going to be, I mean, you're starting out and you might land the most awesome job right away. And that's going to be so awesome. And I hope that for you. But just remembering, like, I feel like sometimes when I talk about my journey, I like want to make sure I mention the fact that it was a journey to get here and it's still going to be a journey. And just that I didn't just land this, like, I think the word dream job always intimidated me. I think the best job is the one that you have right now. And so you do it well and steward it well, and it will lead you to the next thing that you're meant to do. So I feel like that's just like the final nugget of something I was just thinking about. Of I don't want them to just think that I landed this job and everything's like, yep, everything's good now. And so it's still hard work, and it's still
Real.
something I'm really grateful for. And I do feel so grateful. There was hard years before this too. So yeah, just wanted to be the reality of it all, and that I'm here for you. Like, truly, I mean it when I say you can email me. I feel like I know Sarah is that same way, even just meeting her virtually, but we are here for you. And TCU is a school that's for you. And so just, if you are, any thought that comes to mind, you're not alone. Someone else has had the thought. So reach out.
Absolutely.
And we're here to help you.
Abbie, you are so wise.
Oh,
Agreed.
I really appreciate all your sharing today. Just a lot of wisdom and what you've brought forward. I guess I would just say dream big, look for the possible, but also give your self space to let your dreams evolve. So just because this was your dream today, it's okay if you wake up tomorrow and your dream has adapted a little bit, or that in 10 years your dream keeps evolving. It's okay, and really beautiful. Like, living is changing, so I think that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to the two of you, Abbie and Sarah, for joining me this evening. I know it's after hours, we're off work now, but I cannot tell you how much your words are going to encourage our students in a time where we really need it. I mean, and this is kind of all the time thing, but especially right now. And so I appreciate you giving of your time. I know that our students will appreciate you giving of their time. And I just wanted to briefly mention our services here at the Career Center. I am the career consultant. Most of you know, the students who are watching, that I'm your career consultant. And so if you have questions about what you would like to do with your life, how to navigate that space, internships, jobs, things like that, I'm the person that you speak with. Also, if you just want to have your resume reviewed, I can help you with that also. And so please feel free to reach out to me. Make sure that you schedule an appointment via handshake, which you can access on our website. And Kim Satz, who is on with us as well, is our employer relations coordinator. So this is why she's on here. And I just wanted to make sure that we introduced ourselves here at the end. In case you didn't know who we are, you should. But if you don't, hi, hello. All right. I want to thank you so much once again for participating with us. Hi, Kim, for participating. I'm going to echo Kim's sentiments. I think this conversation this afternoon has been absolutely wonderful. And again, I thank you so much for your time. I do want to respect your time, and I know that people have to get going. So I'm going to go ahead and press stop recording, and we will adjourn. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.